everything started to change. In a way I didn't notice right away. Not suddenly. There wasn't one clear moment like everything is different from here. It happened slowly, like a song gradually falling out of rhythm. By the time you realize it, it's already no longer the same. First, it was just small details. Ambrose started replying to my messages more slowly. Not that he stopped replying, he still answered. Still used the same familiar tone, but a new distance had crept in between the words. Like he was thinking more carefully. I told myself I was imagining it. Everyone gets busy, right? But then the canceled plans started. Sorry, I've got a paper due. Meeting with my lit group tonight. Rain check. I said okay every time. Always. I never asked for more. Never made it difficult. I didn't want to be that person, the one who needs too much, asks too much, makes the other person feel suffocated. But every time it happened, I would open my recorder and listen again. His laugh. The way he said my name. Dorian. I needed to remind myself. It was real. One night, while I was editing audio, I received a file. Not a message. An audio file. From Ambrose. File name. _you. Wave. My heart beat faster as I hit play. At first, there was only the sound of wind. Soft. Then footsteps on gravel. And then his voice. Hey. A pause. I'm not good at this kind of thing. He laughed quietly. Which is funny, because I spend most of my time with words. I smiled, even though he couldn't see it. I just wanted you to hear this. A few seconds of silence. Then he started reading. A poem. I didn't know who wrote it, maybe him, maybe someone else, but the way he read it. Slow. Clear. Each word placed with care. It wasn't just poetry. It was a message. Ascending. When the file ended, I sat still for a long time. Then I texted back. Me. That was beautiful. 3 dots appeared. Disappeared. Then Ambrose. It reminded me of you. I stared at the screen. A warm feeling spread through my chest. Maybe I had been worrying too much. But things didn't go back to the way they were. Ambrose was still there, still smiling, still touching me, still kissing me. But there were moments. He was distant. Not physically, but somewhere I couldn't reach. One evening, we were in my room. He was lying on the bed, reading. I was at my desk, editing a piece of audio. Neither of us spoke for nearly 20 minutes. It wasn't uncomfortable, but it wasn't like before. What are you doing? Ambrose asked, eyes still on the page. Editing. What? He paused, looked up. What? I turned around, a little hesitant. The clips I recorded. Of us. Ambrose looked at me. Didn't say anything. I continued. I'm putting them together. Like a story. A long silence. Then he put the book down. Sat up. How many have you recorded? The question. It wasn't light anymore. I swallowed. I don't know. A lot. Everything? I didn't answer. Ambrose looked at me. This time his eyes weren't soft. Dorian. I clenched my hands. I'm not doing anything bad, I said, voice low. I want to keep it. Keep what? He smiled. But not happily. That's not how that works. Why not? Because isn't a file you can save. His voice grew sharper. I felt my chest tighten. You said you wanted me to remember, I said. That night. You said that. Yeah, he replied quickly. But I didn't mean this. I stood up. Then what do you want me to do? Forget everything? Ambrose stood up too. No. I want you here. He pointed at the floor. Not in your recordings. Not in your head. Here. I looked at him. I am here. No, he shook his head. You're always half here. That sentence. It hit hard. I didn't know how to argue back. Because part of me knew. He was right. The air grew heavy. Tense. Ambrose sighed. Rubbing his forehead. I don't want to fight. Then don't. Then stop recording everything like it's going to disappear. I smiled faintly. Maybe it will. He looked at me, and for the first time, I saw something like pain. Ambrose didn't stay that night. He grabbed his jacket, stood at the door, hesitated for a second. then said, "I don't want to be something you archive." The door closed, softly, but enough to make the room feel empty. I stood there for a long time, not moving, not breathing deeply, just standing. Then, like a reflex, I turned on the recorder, but there was nothing to record, only silence. And this time, that silence wasn't beautiful. That night, I listened to everything again. From the beginning, from the first laugh, to the most recent clips. I tried to find the signs, the moment everything started to shift. But I couldn't see it. I only saw two people, moving closer, then slowly drifting apart. The next morning I didn't text him. He didn't text me either. 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, nothing. On the 4th day, I received another file. No message, just the file. Don T_listen. Wave. I stared at the name, heart racing. I knew what I should do. Delete it. Don't open it. Respect it. I hit play. At first only breathing. Quick, uneven. Then Ambrose's voice. But different. Shaking. "I don't know why I'm sending this." He laughed, but it broke. Maybe I shouldn't. A long silence. I almost thought the file had ended. Then, "I think I'm starting to be scared of you." I froze. Stopped breathing. "I like you," he said very quietly. "I really do. But the way you look at me, the way you listen to me, breathing, like I'm something you need to capture before it's gone." A pause. "I don't want to disappear." His voice cracked a little. "Not like that." The file ended. I sat there, not moving, not thinking, just listening again, and again, and for the first time, I realized there are some sounds, not meant to be kept, but to be let go. I didn't listen to that file a third time. Not because I didn't want to, but because I knew if I kept going, I would start analyzing it like everything else. I would break down every pause, every breath, every tremor in his voice, and turn it into something I could control. And that was exactly what Ambrose was afraid of. I put the headphones down, left it alone, didn't rewind, didn't save another copy, just let it exist as it was. 2 days later, I still hadn't seen him again. Not because there was no chance we were in the same area, walked the same paths, but because we were both avoiding each other. There was a silent agreement, a distance built without words. I started to notice how loud my room had become. Not real sound, but the files, the recordings, the pieces of us I had tried to keep. I opened the folder. Dozens of files. His name everywhere. Ambrose_laugh_01. Wave. Ambrose_room_02. Wave. Ambrose_saying_my_name. Wave. I looked at them for a long time. Then I selected one. Hit play. Dorian. His voice. Soft. Close. I stopped it immediately. Turned it off. I wasn't ready yet. Not to listen, but to understand. That evening, I took my laptop outside. Not to the library. Not to a cafe. But to the grass behind the dorm. The place we had once sat. The place where everything had started to become more. It was colder now. The wind stronger. I didn't bring the recorder. Just the laptop. And the files. I opened one at random. Without looking at the name. Just listened. Sound of rain. Breathing. And then his voice. "Have you ever been scared?" I closed my eyes. Let the sound pass through me. No analyzing. No stopping. Just listening. When the file ended, I opened another. Then another. And another. I listened to all of them. Not to keep them, but to return them. By the time the sky was completely dark, I closed the laptop. Sat still. No sound. No voice. Just the wind. And me. For the first time, I realized Ambrose didn't only exist in those files. He existed in the way I remembered him. In the way I felt. In the space he left behind. The next day, I texted him. Not long. Not complicated. "Me? Can we talk?" took nearly an hour. But he replied, Ambrose. Yeah. We met in a neutral place. Not my room. Not his room. But a quiet corner in the library. The place we had sat the first time. Ambrose was already there when I arrived. He was sitting with his hands clasped, looking down at the table. When I sat across from him, he looked up, his eyes tired, but not distant. Hey, I said. Hey. A silence. Not uncomfortable, but heavy. I was the one who started. I listened. He nodded slightly. I figured. I took a breath. I'm sorry. Ambrose looked at me. Didn't he react right away? I continued. I think. I turned you into something I could control. Replay. Keep. My voice wasn't loud, but clear enough. I didn't realize how that made you feel. Ambrose was quiet for a long time. Then he said, I don't hate that you recorded things. I looked at him. Really? He nodded. I like the way you listen to everything. It makes everything mean more. A pause. But I don't want to feel like I have to exist in a way you can save. I swallowed. I know. Ambrose looked at me. This time his eyes were softer. You don't need to keep everything for it to be real. I nodded. And you don't need to be afraid that if you don't record it, it will disappear. I smiled faintly. That's going to take some time. Yeah, he smiled back. I figured. A silence. But this time. Lighter. I deleted a few files, I said. Ambrose frowned. A few? I shrugged. Not all. He exhaled, half smiling. Fair. I don't know what we're going to be, I said. Me neither. But I want to try. In a different way. Ambrose tilted his head. No recording. Not like that. I shook my head. Just not using it to replace being here. He looked at me. A little longer. Then nodded. I can work with that. We didn't hug. Didn't kiss. There was no big moment. Just. When I stood up to leave, Ambrose said, Dorian. I turned back. Yeah. He hesitated for a second, then. Stay. I stopped. Looked at him. And this time. I didn't think about recording that moment. I just turned back. Sat down. We talked. Not about us. Not about the problem. But about small things. Classes. A poem he was reading. A piece of audio I was working on. And between all of it, something slowly came back. Not like before, but real. When we left the library, the sky was dark. The wind cold. Ambrose walked beside me, hands in his jacket pockets. We walked together for a while, without speaking. At the fork he stopped. Good night, Dorian. Good night. I turned to go. Took a few steps. Then. Dorian. I turned around. Ambrose was still standing there. He looked at me. And this time. He smiled. Not big. But enough. I didn't record that moment. But I remembered it. Very clearly. And for the first time since everything began. I didn't feel the need to save it. Because I knew. It wouldn't disappear. Not the way I used to fear. But I still didn't know that our story wasn't over yet. After that evening, things between me and Ambrose didn't go back to the way they were. But they didn't fall apart either. It was like a song that had fallen out of rhythm, then been tuned again, not perfect, not as smooth as before, but more aware. We started over. Slowly. Carefully. The first time I clearly noticed the change was when I didn't bring the recorder with me. We met at the cafe near the library, the place where I used to record the sound of the coffee machine and spoons clinking against cups. This time my hands were empty. No device. No backup. No just in case. Ambrose noticed immediately. You didn't bring it? He asked, raising an eyebrow slightly. I shook my head. Not today. He looked at me for a few seconds. Then smiled. Okay. Just one word. But the way he said it. Light. Relieved. Like some pressure had just been lifted. We sat there for nearly 2 hours. Talking. Laughing. There were silences, but they weren't heavy like before. No need to fill them. No need to record them. Just existing. But the hardest part wasn't not recording. It was not thinking about recording. There were moments when I almost unconsciously reached into my pocket looking for the recorder that wasn't there. Moments when Ambrose laughed in a way I knew I would want to hear again. Moments when he said my name, slow and soft. Dorian. I had to remind myself. Be here, not later. One evening, while we were walking across campus, Ambrose stopped. What are you thinking about? I blinked. Huh? You just went somewhere. I smiled faintly. Old habit. He looked at me. No blame. Just observing. Do you remember? I asked. Remember what? The way everything sounded. Ambrose thought for a moment. Sometimes. I remember all the time. I looked down at the ground. That's the problem. Ambrose stepped closer. No, he said. That S part of you. I looked at him. But I don't want it to ruin this. He was quiet for a second. Then don't let it. It sounded simple. But it wasn't. We started making small rules. Not official. Not written down. But understood. No recording when it was just the two of us unless we both agreed. No using old files as a substitute for talking. And most importantly, no hiding in the past when the present got hard. There were days I still wanted to open everything again. Nights when I lay alone, missing his voice so much it almost hurt. But I learned how not to press play. Ambrose changed too. He opened up more. Not in a dramatic way but in small details. He started talking more about his family. About how he always felt he had to be good with words because that was the only way he knew how to connect. Funny thing is, he said once while we were sitting in his room, I don't actually like talking that much. I laughed. Then why do you do it so well? He shrugged. Practice. A pause. And because I'm scared that if I don't talk, people won't understand me. I looked at him. And now? Ambrose looked back. Now. I think someone does understand. My heart squeezed gently. We didn't say love. Neither of us said it first. Maybe because we both knew. Once it was said, it would carry a different weight. But there were moments. When Ambrose rested his head on my shoulder. When he held my hand under the table. When he looked at me longer than usual. I knew. And I think he knew too. One evening, we went back to the grass behind the dorm. The place where it had all begun. The air was warmer. The wind gentle. I brought the recorder. But I didn't turn it on. Ambrose lay down, looking up at the sky. I remember this place. Me too. A silence. Then he said, do you want to try again? I turned to him. What? Recording. I blinked. Are you sure? He nodded. But this time, it's different. Different how? Ambrose sat up, looked at me, not to keep a pause, but to share. I thought for a moment, then nodded. Okay. I turned on the recorder. The red light came on, but the feeling was different. No possessiveness, no fear of loss, just a moment, accepted by both of us. Hi, Ambrose said, smiling a little. I guess this is us. I laughed. Very poetic. Shut up. He nudged my leg lightly. We talked about ordinary things, but also about deeper things. What do you think we are? I asked. Ambrose thought. Something real. Define it? He smiled. Do you always need definitions? Sometimes. He looked at me for a long time. Then, you're the person I want to come back to after a long day. My heart beat hard. And me? He asked. I took a breath. You're the person who makes me not need to record everything. To believe it matters. Ambrose didn't say anything. Just looked at me. Then smiled. The wind blew through. Leaves rustled. Breathing. Laughter. I looked at the recorder. Then at him. And this time, I wasn't thinking about how this file would sound later. I only thought, I'm here. With you. Ambrose leaned in and kissed me. Slow. No need to prove anything. No need to save it. When we pulled apart, he whispered. Don't forget this. I smiled. I won tea. And this time, I knew I meant it. That night when I got back to my room, I opened the file, listened to it. Once. Just once. And then, I didn't save it in the old folder. I created a new folder, named Present, because for the first time, I wasn't trying to hold onto the past. I was living in the present. But I didn't know that there would come a day when sound would be the only thing I had left. Everything became normal in a way I never thought I would treasure so much. No big climax. No overly dramatic moments. Just days passing and Ambrose still there. We started having routines. Not the official dating kind, no one named it, but clear enough that we both understood. Tuesdays and Fridays. Coffee after class. Sundays. Library, sitting side by side, each doing our own work, and the evenings. Without a schedule. Just a text. You free? Some nights Ambrose slept over. Not always intimate. Sometimes just lying next to each other, talking nonsense until one of us fell asleep. There were times I woke up in the middle of the night, listening to his breathing, feeling his warmth, and I didn't need a recorder to know. This was something I would remember. One afternoon, Ambrose dragged me to a poetry reading. You have to hear this, he said, practically forcing me to go with him. It was a small room in the literature building. Warm yellow lights, chairs arranged in a circle. Cozy space. About a dozen people. Ambrose sat next to me, his knee lightly touching mine under the table. When it was his turn, I was a little surprised. You didn't say you were going to read? I whispered. He shrugged. Surprise. Ambrose stood up, held a piece of paper, but he didn't look at it. He looked at me, just for a second, then began. His voice, different from when he spoke normally. Each word placed down as if it had its own weight. I don't remember the whole poem, but I remember the feeling. Like he was speaking directly to me, not in front of the crowd, but to me. When he finished, the room was silent for a second. Then applause. Ambrose smiled lightly and sat down. How was it? He asked, leaning slightly toward me. I think you just made me forget how to breathe. He laughed. Good answer. That night, when we left the building, the air was colder. Ambrose put his hands in his coat pockets. I wrote that poem recently, he said. For who? He looked at me. Didn't he answer? Didn't he need to? We stopped under a street lamp. Yellow light fell on us, making his eyes brighter. I didn't think. I just kissed him. In the days that followed, I started a new project. Not an assignment, not a podcast, but something personal. I called it The Listener. The idea was simple, not recording everything, but choosing only the moments we both wanted to keep. Not because we were afraid of losing them, but because they were worth revisiting. I told Ambrose. He thought for a while, then nodded. Okay, but I want to be part of it. Of course, we started recording together. Not just voices, but the sound of our footsteps walking side by side. The laughter when watching a stupid video. The sound of pages turning while sitting next to each other in the library. One time we recorded. Silence. Sitting on the grass, not saying anything for nearly 5 minutes. Just the wind, distant voices of students, and each other's presence. Does this mean anything? I asked afterward. Ambrose smiled. More than most things, that project became part of us. Not the center, but a way to look back together. Not to cling, but to understand. One evening, while we were listening to a clip, Ambrose said, You know what else? What? You don't listen the same way anymore. I frowned. What do you mean? Before, you listened to keep. A pause. Now, you listen to be there. I was quiet, thinking, then nodded. Yeah. Ambrose rested his head on my shoulder. You've changed. I smiled faintly. Thanks to you. No, he shook his head. You did it yourself. I didn't say anything. Just placed my hand on his. Those days weren't perfect, but enough until everything changed again. Not between us, but outside. One morning, when I woke up, I saw a message from Ambrose. Not like usual. Not good morning. Not you free. Just Can you come over? My heart beat faster. Something wasn't he right? I went to his room as fast as I could. Knocked. Didn't he wait? The door opened. Ambrose stood there. But not like usual. His eyes were red. Like he hadn't slept. Hey, I said slowly. He didn't answer right away. Just stepped back to let me in. The door closed. The air was heavy. What's going on? I asked. Ambrose turned his back to me. Hands clenched tight. Then I might have to leave. My heart dropped. What? He turned around. His eyes painful. My family. Something happened. His voice was low. I might have to transfer schools. All sound disappeared. I looked at him. Couldn't he say anything? I'm not sure yet, he said quickly. It's just very likely. I stepped closer. How long? End of the semester. Too soon. Too fast. Why didn't you tell me sooner? I didn't know if I was blaming him or just panicking. Ambrose closed his eyes for a second because I didn't want it to be real. A heavy silence. I didn't know what to do. No recorder. No file. No way to hold on to this. Only the present. We'll be okay, I said. Not sure. But I needed to say it. Ambrose looked at me. Didn't he believe it? But didn't he argue? Dorian. His voice cracked slightly. I don't want to lose you. I pulled him close. Held him tight. You won, I said. But for the first time. I wasn't sure, and in that moment, I understood. There are some things, no matter how hard you try, they can still leave, and no recording can replace them. My room, for the first time in months, felt too big. I lay on the bed, staring at the ceiling. No Ambrose, no soft, steady breathing beside me, no accidental brush of hand or foot, just me. And one question repeating. If he leaves, then what? I sat up abruptly, without thinking much, just grabbed my phone, opened the recorder. I had never done this before. No plan, no topic, just I needed to speak. This is Dorian. My voice was hoarse. I don't know why I'm recording this. A pause. I think I'm scared. I smiled faintly, a humorless laugh. I always thought if I recorded enough, I wouldn't lose anything. I'd have everything, every moment. But I swallowed. I can't record someone leaving. Silence. I can't save the feeling. When you know the thing you love might disappear. I stopped. Didn't say more. Just let the recorder run. Listening to my own breathing. Then I turned it off. Didn't listen back. Didn't need to. The next morning I went to class like normal. But everything wasn't normal anymore. Everything was still there. The lecture hall. The whiteboard. The professor's voice. But I wasn't really there. I kept checking my phone. No message from Ambrose. During break I texted. You okay? No reply. The whole day passed like a broken audio file. Choppy. Distorted. Until evening. Come over. Just 2 words. But this time, I didn't hesitate. When I arrived, the door was unlocked. I walked in. Ambrose was sitting on the floor, leaning against the bed. Around him were boxes, cardboard boxes. Are you packing? I asked, my voice small. Ambrose nodded, without looking at me. It's not certain yet, I said quickly. You said it's not certain. Dorian. He cut me off. I fell silent. My family needs me there. His voice was calm. Too calm. Where? Seattle. Far. Not just another city, but another world. I can apply to transfer, he continued, or take a semester off. I stood there, not knowing what to do. I don't want to leave. This time his voice was softer. I stepped closer, sat down beside him. Then don't, I said. Simple. Ambrose smiled faintly, said, I wish everything was that simple. A silence. I looked at the boxes, the books, the clothes, the things that had once been part of him here. How long? I asked again. Next week. Too fast. What next week? My voice came out, uncontrolled. Ambrose nodded. Dorian. Why didn't you tell me sooner? He was silent. How much time do we have? 7 days. 7 days. I laughed, not because it was funny, but because it was so absurd. 7 days. For everything? Ambrose didn't answer. I stood up, paced back and forth. No, we can do something. I can visit you. We can video call. Dorian. His voice pulled me back. We can try, he said. But you know. He didn't finish the sentence. I knew. Distance. Wasn't just geography. I turned around, looked at him, then we let it end. I said, stubborn. Ambrose looked at me for a long time. Then he stood up, stepped toward me. You're always like this, he whispered. Like what? Not willing to let go. I didn't answer. He reached out and touched my face. Gently. I don't want you to get hurt. Too late, I said softly. A silence. Then Ambrose kissed me. Not gentle, not hesitant, as if time was running out. Kissed him back, held him tight. No recorder, no project, nothing. Except us. And 7 days. In the days that followed, we lived faster, not rushing, but densely. We went to places we had never been, ate things we had never tried, said things we had never dared to say. There were nights we didn't sleep, just lay next to each other, looking at each other, as if trying to memorize every detail. There were times we laughed, really laughed, as if nothing was about to happen. And there were moments we were silent, not because there was nothing to say, but because there was too much. One evening we went back to the grass, the place where we had once recorded silence. I brought the recorder. What are we recording this time? I asked. Ambrose thought. Then he said, everything. I turned on the recorder, placed it between us. This is Dorian, I began. And Ambrose, he added. We have 6 days. Ambrose smiled faintly. 5. I exhaled. Okay. 5. A silence. What do you want to say? I asked. Ambrose looked into the distance. That I'm scared. I nodded. That I never thought I would find this. He paused, looked at me, and then have to leave. I swallowed. I don't know what the future will be like, he continued, but I know. He took my hand. What we have is real. I squeezed back. And worth it. I looked at him. Yeah. The recorder kept running. But this time, I wasn't thinking about saving it. I was just there, with him. And every second passed. The last day came faster than I thought. No warning, no sound to signal it. It was just there. I woke up early, earlier than usual. But really, I wasn't sure I had slept. My phone lit up. A message from Ambrose. Come here. Nothing more. Didn't need to be. I left my room almost immediately. Brought nothing. No recorder. No headphones. No thing to keep. Just me. When I arrived, the door was already open. Ambrose stood in the middle of the room. Most things were gone. The boxes were no longer there. Shelves empty. Desk empty. Only one suitcase left. Hey, I said. My voice smaller than I thought. Hey. We stood there, looking at each other. Neither of us moved closer. Neither spoke. Until. I hate this, I said. Ambrose smiled faintly. Yeah. Me too. A silence. What time do you leave? In 3 hours. 3 hours. I nodded. Okay. Not okay. But. Okay. We sat down on the floor. No chairs. Didn't need them. I've been thinking. A lot, Ambrose said. Me too. About us. I looked at him. And? He inhaled. Slowly. I don't want it to end like it was. Just a phase. I nodded immediately. It wasn't he. Exactly. He looked down at his hands. But I also don't want to make promises that I'm not sure I can keep. I understood. Long distance. SNT easy. Yeah. So, what do we do? I asked. Ambrose looked at me. We don't decide right now. I frowned. What do you mean? I mean, he paused. We keep it. Keep it. How? The way it is. I thought. No labels. No forcing it. No promises. Too big. I exhaled. Just let it exist. Ambrose nodded. And see where it goes. I looked at him. For a long time. Are you okay with that? He smiled. You being there is enough. My heart eased a little. Okay. I said. Okay. We didn't need to say more. 3 hours passed faster than anything I had ever experienced. We talked, laughed, sometimes silent, sometimes just looking at each other, as if trying to remember, not with a recorder, but with ourselves. When it was time to go, there was no soundtrack, no slow motion scene, just reality. Ambrose pulled his suitcase. I walked beside him. We left the building, went to the parking lot. The taxi was already waiting. The driver looked at us through the mirror, said nothing. Ambrose put the suitcase in the trunk, then turned back. We stood facing each other. This was the moment when everything should be said, but I didn't know where to start. We spoke at the same time, then laughed together. Ambrose shook his head. You first. I inhaled. I don't know what the future will be like. He nodded, but I know. I stepped closer. I don't regret anything. His eyes softened. Me neither. A silence. I'll miss you. Yeah. I'll miss everything. Ambrose smiled faintly. You don't need a recorder for that. I smiled. Tears started. No need. Ambrose stepped forward, hugged me tight. I hugged him back, not holding on, not clinging, just hugging. One time, the right way, when we pulled apart. His eyes were red. I'll call. Okay, you too. Yeah. No promises, just possibility. Ambrose opened the car door, paused, looked at me one last time. Then he got in. The door closed. The car started moving. I stood there, watching, until the car disappeared. And for the first time, there was nothing to record. No sound, no file, just emptiness. And me. Many weeks passed. Life continued. Classes, assignments, people around me. Everything was the same, but I was different. I no longer recorded everything. Not because I couldn't, but because I didn't need to. I still used the recorder, but selectively, only moments that were truly worth it. And there were times I recorded nothing at all, just lived. One evening, I sat alone, opened the listener project again, the old files, laughter, voices, and silence. I stopped at one clip, the grass, everything, Ambrose's voice. I smiled, not in pain, just warmth. My phone vibrated. A message from Ambrose. I opened it. You free? I smiled, looked out the window. The night was quiet. I replied, always. And this time, I didn't need to record it, because I knew there are some things that don't need to be saved. They stay anyway.